out, especially if you're an AIM teacher and you want to continue implementing the program, but are just having some questions and concerns about what that's going to look like in the digital world. Because when we first went digital, there was quite a few questions that were sent to us about, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How is it even possible? Or, I was teaching with AIM before the pandemic and now I'm online, so I'm not doing it. So we're here today to hopefully let you know that you can continue on doing many things AIM, even in the digital world. So we're looking forward to your questions and helping you out with those things.
Yes, thanks so much, Pauline. Yes, we hope it will be, we were going to leave lots of time for questions, and hopefully you guys will bring your ideas too, because we absolutely know that, we all have our different experiences with teaching AIM online. I work with Zoom, and Pauline works with Google Meets, as I'm sure most of you are familiar with, perhaps not as familiar with the Zoom platform as I am. So you'll have your, perspectives and experience. And we do hope this will be almost more of an interaction and sharing than just us talking about what we're doing. So, but I would like to just give you some tips, some of the things that I have found work well with my students. And as I say, I just teach them for 1 hour, 1 full hour online, and a pure AIM, just like a core French scenario, but it is just 1 hour. One class is 1 hour once a week, and one class is 1 hour twice a week. So just 2 hours at the most my students get. Okay, so I love this quote that I found that I was sent by a teacher who last year I guided a little bit, not too much, but a little bit on teaching AIM online. And she teaches, of course, at the high school level, and so this is her experience. And she did have a really good experience. And imagine just a first-time AIM teacher and diving in with AIM and online teaching all in 1 year at the same time. So I was so pleased that she found such success teaching AIM online. So it's sort of, it's a little bit representative of the success you can have with AIM. So these are just a few of the technological recommendations that I found useful. And again, well, as Pauline mentioned, she teaches the younger ones, kindergarten, or sorry, grade 1, French immersion, I'm so sorry, grade 1. And I teach usually ages 8 and up, 8 up to teens who are in my class. And so slightly older, a little more capable in terms of the written work, especially as students. I have had some grades at age 6 in my class as well, some 6-year-olds, but mostly their ages 8 and up. Okay, so
could people just turn off their mics if they're not speaking? Perhaps there's a little bit of feedback.
Thank you very much. I'll just mute. There we go. Okay, thanks for that comment. I wasn't sure about that. So what I do when I'm in Zoom, I want to make sure that the students, so I'm just going right back to a very basic awareness of what it's like to teach online with students that I'm sure you probably already know, but for those who may not, I have the students, and I don't know what it is in Google Meets, but make sure that they select the view on Zoom it says gallery view, and then they select your teacher's video, and then they select pin video. And I teach them to do that, making sure that my video is the largest on screen. We don't want them having all of the students up so that they're very distracted by everyone else's faces. They should be able to see everyone else's faces, but we want our face as the teacher to be the largest one visible. We want them to see our mouth, to see our face, to see our expression, and to see our hands best. So that is absolutely 100% the best viewing experience is when you have yourself the most visible on screen. So when you see your students, this is what you want to see. So you in Zoom would select speaker view. What is the selection that you use, Pauline, in Google Meets to make sure you're the largest one?
Okay, so we have this feature when you hover your mouse over, like, let's say I'm really small, and I'll tell them to pin me big. Faites Madame Grande, I tell them. So when you hover over my picture, there's 3 little things that pop up, and the furthest one to the left looks like a push pin. And that's where you get the expression pin me big or faites madame grand. So they just click on that that push pin and it makes me the biggest one, the biggest portion of the screen. Of course, there are selections down there's like 3 dots at the bottom that you can go up and change the layout and everything. But I just tell them faites madame grand avec le pin. So that's what they do to make me big. And it's funny because sometimes when they're, I can see them, they're like this, and they're looking, their eyes are all squinty. And I said, no, don't make me big. Like there's a little wee window, they're trying to look at me. And I'm like, no, that's Madame Grand. So I laugh. I can always tell when they don't have me big because they're squinting at their screen.
Yeah, it's very important for the best teaching experience for them, a learning experience for them, that you're the biggest ones. Otherwise, they see you small like this, and that's what we don't want. You want to see yourself small and the other kids all equally sized. Okay, so that's just a very basic aspect to the teaching to get you started. And then if you are teaching students now, of course, you will all be coming with different experiences with AIM and different experiences teaching online, and with students with different experiences. Now, for the most part, I am teaching students who have no experience with AIM at all and have very little or no proficiency. Most of my classes are beginner. We have some level 2 and some level 3, but to get started, all of mine pretty much are beginners. And Pauline, I think it's probably the same for you if it's kindergarten. So why do I keep saying kindergarten? French grade 1 French immersion. So some of the tips that I find are useful is, as opposed to teaching in person in a classroom, I tend to speak and gesture much more slowly than I do. There is also always the difficulty of the delay if you don't have good internet, or the students don't have good internet, or for whatever reason, there is this, sometimes a minimal to a significant delay. So I definitely slow down so that they can all follow well enough. I repeat more often than I usually do in class as well, just because we're at this distance. This screen is a bit of a barrier between us. So I do repeat more often. I use pardon extensively because I find it a little more difficult to draw the language out of the students online. Again, that barrier of the screen, you don't have that physicality that it helps you signal to the students you want them to join in. We don't have the audio of the other kids as much where they can hear and feel the power of AIM. So I'm having to do a lot more to draw them in to the speaking. And so I'm using pardon a lot. What I'll do also is tout le monde a lot. These are typical strategies used in AIM, but I do it a lot more. So tout le monde, pardon, tout parle, and I'll sandwich that. So I'll say tout le monde parle, everyone speak, tout le monde parle, to make it very clear. And this is usually just at the very beginning to make sure that they're understanding, because after a while, the pardon or tout le monde is usually all I need. And then tout le monde dit avec moi, once they start to understand enough, of course, a few days in. Sandwiching is something I use a lot more online than I do in the class. I just find that I find that in order for them to understand better, I don't know what it is, I can't really explain specifically why, but I find that I do that, and I find that it puts them more at ease and helps to ensure that they, first of all, understand and that they participate more. So I do find I sandwich more. I don't sandwich all the time, it's certainly not that, but I do, where I would normally sandwich, say, 3% of the time or 2% of the time, I might be doing it 5% of the time. So a little bit more. Now, right at the very beginning, I make sure that the audio is off, because as new learners to the language, if the audio is on and everyone else is heard trying to speak along, they're not going to hear me clearly. And even when I'm speaking and I'm the only one speaking, I find that some students don't hear me correctly. And I have the funniest Pauline, I think it was with you, Pauline, we were talking about that, the funniest ways of saying a word. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's what they thought the word was. I forget what word one time someone said. I forget what it was. I think it was aujourd'hui or something. They gotten completely mixed up. They said it in a very different way. So it is important that right off the bat, and even when you do have the audio off, they don't necessarily hear you correctly, but do have it off for the first few hours, because you want those high frequency words, those initial words, them to hear them very, very clearly, or as clearly as they can in an online situation. So one thing I work with them a lot is the ouvre and ferme le vidéo, le microphone, sorry. Ouvre and ferme le microphone, ouvre and ferme la vidéo as well, but mostly it's ouvre and ferme le microphone, because I only with teachers do I ever ask them to ferme la vidéo, actually, when we're doing workshops. So ouvre and ferme is something I work on. Sometimes I want some of the students to have their microphones on. A lot of them, I want them just off because I want them to hear me clearly. But sometimes I want to hear the students as well, because there is that huge power of AIM and the group and feeling like we're all connected and speaking together, that I want them to at least have a taste of, even online. It's a little more difficult because, as I said before, there's a lot of delay, so it's a little bit challenging. But I find that for repeated language activities where I know they know the words, it doesn't matter, you know, if they hear me and they probably don't, I mean, I'm not even really saying it in some of these activities, I just want to hear from them. So I'll have them turn on their microphones then. And so, for example, the activities like les contraires, tout le monde dit les mots contraires. Je dis un mot et tout le monde dit le contraire. And so then I'll just say a word, they say the opposite, I say a word, they say the opposite. And as they get to know it, we do it faster and faster and faster. And I will play certain games with that activity as well. With simple gesture reviews, excuse me, I do those in every class. I will sometimes have them turn on their microphones as well. I find that the game vrai ou faux is a really fun game to do online because it's very simple to do, very visual, because I make them very messy. Okay, so you have cards, Pauline. I make sure that they have to gesture ça c'est vrai or ça c'est faux. They have to do the really big gestures, and I just say whatever sentence. It could be a sentence relating to the story we're doing. It could be like today I did Madame Wendy est très très folle, and then they had to say ça c'est vrai or whatever they want to say. They can say what they like. I do different sentences that are of course outside the story as well. Different questions, I will gesture and I want to hear them all say it, and then I want them all to try to respond. It's you know, a little challenging, but we work through it just as we would in class, and I really praise those ones whose voices I hear. Right now we're in level 1, we just finished our 15th hour, and I'm starting to work on how to expand and make our sentences, our responses longer. Yeah, so there, it's really up to you. You have to gauge where your kids are, where they are in their speaking, and how it's going today. But I do like to turn the audio on a little bit once in a while for those simpler activities that are more repetitive and where I want them to feel like they're all talking together. Sometimes, especially as I move into level 2, level 3, like the 21st hour to the 40th hour of instruction, I will have a few kids unmute at a time. They're really well versed in muting and unmuting, so it makes it a lot easier. So the way I have my setup is much simpler than Pauline's. She's got a fantastic wall of things all around her. I tend to, I guess, move my things around. So that's basically what it looks like. I have my little, I'm obviously not in my situation. I just moved on the weekend, so I'm at my daughter Laura's place right now. So it's been a crazy time. So I don't have my wall here behind me because it isn't even set up. I don't even have a table. So, however, you know, I have this here, and then very handy, I just have all my posters, and I just lift them up as needed, or I hold up, you know, the story, or I hold up any of the puppets that I've made, and I ask questions as we go. so important, like with any classroom with AIM, that we just have a lot of fun. And I find I can really connect with my students online almost as well, if not as well, with some as well. But you know, if you just try to be, as we always say in our workshops, really funny and silly and exaggerated, and try to make them laugh and praise a lot, and really support the ones who are struggling, who really give it a try, and just be as positive as absolutely possible. I think that's very important online, because well, it's very important in person too, of course, but you've got this bit of a distance between you and your students. But yeah, and whenever, you know, try to connect with them as much as possible. Sometimes they'll have their cat there, with some things that don't ever happen in the classroom. The child brings the cat, right? So the cat's there. Oh, regarde Pauline, tout le monde. Pauline a un chat. Oh, regarde ça. Comment s'appelle le chat? Est-ce que now if that's too difficult, I will say, est-ce que le chat s'appelle Fred ou Marie? And I'll just make up a name. No, le chat s'appelle. And then the child will say the name. And, you know, you can just play with that. And well, sometimes, you know, my husband's there and I'll say, oh, viens ici. And I'll introduce him online. Or Laura, I've pointed her out too, my daughter, she's here. And so you can actually bring a little bit of who you are and your family. And I introduced my daughter Laura's cat one time. And so that's sort of an advantage of being at home and having the kids have their things around them. We don't do that a lot, but once in a while. So cues for participation. Now this is a little different. Pauline's nodding her head. It's a little different online than actually in person in a classroom. Of course, they're not going to have the audio on all the time for the reason I said that there's a lot of delay sometimes. So there are these cues I am watching for all the time. Are their mouths moving? Ouvre la bouche, parle, pardon. And then more than I ever would in a regular, you know, in a classroom live, I do ask the students to gesture a little more. And I praise them when they're giving it a try. For some students, that's very difficult. And that's why I really never I really never recommend that you insist that students gesture in a live classroom, but I encourage them a little more than I would in a live in-person classroom online, because I want to see more of the participation that I cannot feel or hear as much online. So that's it. Pauline, you were any comments there, Pauline, that you have that might enhance what I just said there? I'm sure you have.
Okay. Yeah, so I make that an expectation right at the beginning. I teach them. I mean, it's the same thing we do when you're in a brick and mortar school. You teach your expectations, right? So right off the bat, one of my expectations is that their mouths are moving. I don't have my microphone on. I find that very distracting to me. Or sorry, I have my microphone. I don't have theirs on. I find if I have all of my students with mics on, it's just like a mess, and I end up getting a headache. So like you said, Wendy, sometimes I'll have two on, because 2 or 3, it's not too bad. But if you have any more than that, I found that it's just too much noise, and the delay, like you said. But I always start it, and I know, and I have a camera on expectations. So when I'm starting my teacher-led activities, I want the cameras on. I'm live teaching, they're live learning. It's not flex time. It's not asynchronous. I can't say that word time. It's actual live learning. So at that time, they have to have their camera on. And I know with older students, this has been a problem. It's not a problem with like grade 1 and 2 and probably grade 3. I know some of the older students. So if some of our friends here tonight are teaching core French, grade 4 to 8, I know that that can be an issue at times. But I make it an absolute expectation that the cameras have to be on. I tell the kids, je dois voir ton visage. Je dois voir que la bouche ouvre et ferme. So my expectation is that I'm seeing your mouths open, and I'll demonstrate it. I'll go like this. Est-ce que madame parle? Non. Pourquoi? Parce que la bouche n'ouvre pas et la bouche ne ferme pas. And I say, oui, c'est correct. Alors, maintenant, and I'll turn my mic off and I'll go like this. Maintenant, est-ce que madame parle? And I'll turn my mic back on and they'll all say, oui, oui, oui. And I say, how do you know I was speaking? Comment est-ce que tu sais ça? Parce que la bouche bouge, la bouche ouvre et la bouche ferme. And with the younger kids, it's really fun because I'll tell them, viens ici, come up really close to the camera, and they love doing that. They love showing me their tonsils, right? So, so it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I make that an expectation right at the beginning. And as we're going into the teacher-led activities where it's imperative they are speaking with me, when it's that time, whether I'm teaching math or language or science or whatever I'm teaching, I always have a teacher-led activities portion to that lesson. So we'll sing a little song, like we'll see, viens ici au tapis, viens ici au tapis, tout le monde, or mes amis. And then I pretend, I tell them, pretend you're sitting at the carpet with me. So I try to make it as real as possible. Then when we sit down, I always start with, maintenant, so it's kind of like your learning goal and your success criteria. We start with this every day. Maintenant, je parle en français. Alors, je regarde madame. J'écoute madame. And I always use je because that's what they're going to use most often, or I'll use en. Je dis les mots quand madame fait les actions. So I'm really making them know that, not that I'm expecting them to do actions, like Wendy said, if they want to, that's fine. But for some children, it's difficult. They can't do that cognitively. But the expectation is that their mouths are moving when my hands are moving. So that's an expectation that I have and that I've got to see them. And then we start doing our, I do all my gestures and everything. I'll tell them, okay, mets les mains en haut. And we sing a little song, mets les mains en haut, mets les mains en haut. So we're putting our hands up. And then I have another kind of little thing that I did that I made up, because I'm always making up my own little songs. And it's like this. So we go like this. I say, montre-moi les mains. So they get their hands up and I go, voilà la chanson, préparez les mains, préparez les doigts, préparez les bouches, parlez avec moi. And then we sing it again, préparez les mains, and we do funny things with our hands like this, préparez les doigts, préparez les bouches. They like that one. Parlez avec moi. So that's kind of our little entry thing, that one of the little entry things that I've done with grade ones. I know the grade 2s, 3s, some of the older kids might like it too, but they have a really great time. So anyways, I just wanted to add that to what you were saying. And that's kind of how I handle those situations.
Thank you, Pauline. That's fantastic. Sounds like they have a lot of fun with you.
Oh, we do. We have a great time.
That's so fun. Well, just to follow up on what Pauline was saying, basically, the way I run the class, so I have a 1-hour class, and I would do the same thing if it were 30 minutes. I just back to back 2 30-minute classes, removing the entry routine in the middle is basically all I would do to run an hour class, and this is what I do. So basically, we do the same things. As I do the same things with my students that I would do in an in-person class. We sing our raps, as Pauline has hers. I do some, because I'm working with older students, we can do la classe commence en français, ouvre la tête, enlève l'anglais, and we all stand up. I stand up, I say tout le monde se lève et danse et chante avec moi. And I just dance along with them, and they're all dancing around. And then tout le monde s'assoit, se lève, s'assoit, se lève, s'assoit. We have fun with that. And there are a few other songs that we do as well. I model a written activities, lots of spontaneous gesturing, lots of just, the les contraires, gesturing questions, all kinds of things, modeling the written activities, as you can see in this picture here. So I teach a lot of I teach all the words as I would in a regular, classroom in person through gestures. I show that it's just that following the same types of activities as in the teacher's guide, introducing the story. I take my puppets and I just, show them as we go along and ask various questions, do the story. Now, when it comes to telling the story, I won't take the hard copy. I will instead show it on the portal. So because the students all have access to the portal, I teach them how to enter the portal. I'm not going to go through that now because, if you're using them, I'm sure you have one, but you just share the screen. So not sure if you know how to do that, but it's pretty straightforward. I've got the screen shared now. You just click share screen, and then your screen shows up for everyone to see, and you click on the portal and you click the whatever activity on the portal you want to show. So now when I am doing the story with the students, I will not have the audio going as I would in a live in-person classroom. I never would play the audio there because they have it at home to listen to. When I'm working with the students, I want to make sure I have the opportunity to hear them and read at their speed, and I pause, so I stop and I ask a question, or I read a little more slowly, or maybe more quickly than is there later on as they become familiar with it. Like today, we read it very, very quickly. I said, tout le monde lit l'histoire très, très vite, because now we're in the 15th hour. It's a short story, so they can read it really, really quickly. Kids love fast. So when they are able, we try to do it really, really quickly. And so, just all of the same activities. As I mentioned before, les contraires, vrai ou faux, very popular. Sometimes I'll write it out. Sometimes I'll just say it. And the students have to say ça c'est vrai ou ça c'est faux. Madame contre la classe. Sometimes I'll ask a question and I write on my chart paper behind me the points. If the whole class gives the answer and the answer is correct, they get a point. If one person doesn't say anything, or if I just choose, sometimes it'll just be 2 kids or 3, because very, very difficult to see that everyone's answered. So if it's just 2 or 3 kids, I can much more hone in on who's speaking and making sure they do. As long as they give the answer and they all give the answer, they get a point. If they don't all, then I get a point. I always have an end of class activity, and these ones are great end of class activities, especially les contraires or vrai ou faux, as we're just about to leave and the kids are saying, Madame Wendy, la classe est presque finie. They always like to remind me. I don't know it's good for my self-esteem, but anyway, they like to remind me on the classes, la classe est presque finie. Okay, so especially I have one child usually in every class who likes to remind me that the class is almost finished. So anyway, oui, la classe est presque finie, ça c'est vrai. So tout le monde joue. And then I love to do the little raps before, because especially online, I find that the kids can get a little more distracted than they can in person quickly. So one trick is, well, I'll show you this in the next slide. I keep my activities very short, even shorter than I would in a live in-person classroom. And I get them singing a little more than I would, and up and down a little more than I would, because I just find that I need to keep the pace a little faster. So they'll get, before we do a game, we do tout le monde joue maintenant, et ça c'est très, whoops, I'm doing too fast. Tout le monde joue maintenant, et ça c'est très, très amusant. Tout le monde joue maintenant, et ça c'est très, très amusant. Or maintenant, tout le monde lit cette histoire. Oui, 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 dit les mots très, très fort et tourne la page et lit encore. So we'll do those raps, we'll do the questions rap before we do an activity. And we can do it with the audio on the portal, without the audio on the portal, once they know it really well, and mix it up. I find that, and we get them up and down, standing up, sitting down. So it really breaks up the class and keeps them really alert. Now, all these tips are great for live in person, but I find that I just do it a little faster and make the activities a little shorter than in person. So this is just an outline of a lesson plan during the first 10 to 14 hours, where each activity is 5 to 6 minutes. So enter your team. stand up and dance to La Classe Commence. With all of the, remember, with all of the spontaneous gesturing that goes around it. Maintenant, la classe commence. Et quand la classe commence, tout le monde se lève et tout le monde chante et danse avec moi. And then we all stand up and we sing. And then I usually get them warmed up with a quick gesture review. Could be, oh my goodness, that's bad spelling. Individual words and short phrases, just really high frequency phrases so they become so familiar with them, just like we do in a named classroom live. As I mentioned before, I love to sing the raps in between as well. It livens it up, it gets them moving because I want them to do the gestures when we sing those. Then we read one scene, another 5 minutes, ask some oral questions, 3 to 5 minutes, stand up, for example, do la danse en action, 5 minutes, sit down, model choisit le bon mot. Behind me sometimes on chart paper, I don't know, I'm still an old fashioned chart paper. I love it, the flexibility, you know, and I bring this forward so they can see it a little better. And I write it really big. And then when, and after we've done a couple of modelings there, then I'll share my screen and we'll look at exactly what they're going to do in their activity book in their online digital workbook in between classes. So anyway, that's just an idea of that. Now, once we get into the next 10 hours, and I feel they're starting to be able to handle some individual partner group activities. Now, I delay partner group activities online because I cannot hear what's going on. As you know, the breakout rooms, I'm there all by myself and going from room to room to room. So all the other rooms, I don't know what's going on. So it's not like a classroom where I can hear any English being spoken. Of course, I remind them, parle en français, seulement en français. Est-ce qu'on parle en anglais? No, parle en français. I keep saying it over and over again. But despite that, of course, some English can happen and I won't even know. So that I do send them out to breakout rooms after about the first 10 hours, after or even 15 hours, after I'm sure they're really coming along with the language, and I give them very simple activities. So today was my first breakout room. It was going to be last class, but they didn't print their sheets. So I create little sheets for them that I have them print out, just some short, really short, 7 or 8 lines. And I wrote out sentences and they had to do vrai ou faux. They're so familiar with the activity. I knew they could handle it. These kids are 8 and above. They can read. So, they had to read and just say, ça c'est vrai ou ça c'est faux. And as we move forward, one of the activities they absolutely love is qu'est-ce que tu vois dans l'image or décris l'image. So I don't want to go on. I think we've got only about 24. We're more than halfway through. And I just want to be 100% sure that we're really answering your questions. I have a lot more I can say, and I'm sure Pauline has things that she can, of course, say as well. But I want to be sure that we are here to share and answer questions. So I think I'll pause here to see if there are any questions at all or anything that we can help you out with, any particularities to do with. Oh, yes, one person, Barbara.
Hi, Wendy. Yeah, I'm calling from Toronto, or in Toronto. So I do have a question. I am teaching online and face-to-face at the same time. So yeah, I know, Pauline, I got the same feeling. So I've got most of my students in class, and then I have maybe 4 or 5 online. They're all split classes. And I'm moving from room to room, setting up a computer, taking it down, and and then every LCD projector I plug into, it could make my screen go blank, or for a couple of days my microphone didn't work. And so I'm dealing with some of those kinds of issues, and I'm doing the best I can, I think, in the situation. Any suggestions? Because it's just really, really slow. And participation, you were saying about also people online showing their face. It took about a month for even the homeroom teacher to get them to turn their cameras on. And sometimes I see just the tops of their heads. Like I don't even see the head. So I'm trying.
Yeah, that's challenging. The hybrid model, it shouldn't be allowed as far as I'm concerned, but that's very political.
I agree.
Some things you can do, and these are some things that I do when I've had tech problems as a teacher. I make sure I have a lot of activities that they can do on their own. In my teaching, we call it flex time. So I'm not teaching full on with the kids like for 6 hours or 5.5 hours. So when I do my language block, I will do active live teaching with them for 10 or 15 minutes. And then they go for flex time. So that's almost like they're going for their IPG work, only it's just individual. It's not. So
Right.
I'll say, okay, everybody go for flex time. And I make sure that I'm still on camera. I can see them. They can see me, or they can turn their cameras off if they want, but I've just got to make sure that I'm available in case they have questions. And then I usually have like things for them to do on the flex time. So it's stuff that I've set up ahead of time, or I've put in my Google Classroom. It's videos that they can watch, or I'll say, go to the AIM portal and do this and do that. So I would suggest that your kids, like in case you're having a tech issue like that, just have extra activities that the students can do. So if you're not available, of course, you won't be able to do the live teacher-led activities. But if you have the portals, they can go and they can list, they can do the actions on the portals. They can do that on their own. They can go and listen to stuff on the portals on their own.
Well, they
Like,
can't because there's not enough computers in class for all the students to be on a computer either.
Yeah, I'm talking
So-
more about your students that are
Or online. Oh, yes.
Yeah, on the online students, right?
And I have activities posted and dictionary
that's great.
visual and all sorts of things
Yeah,
too.
but that's what I do because I mean, there's no supply teachers, right? I had a double prep the other day and there was no supply teacher for me. So I just said, okay, you're going for an hour of flex. And I put a slide up and said, you're doing this, 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 this. And that way your online kids are being looked after. You've got them set up, even though you can't be with them face to face, or
Right.
and then you're just going to continue working with your in-class kids, right? But at least you've given your online kids something to do.
Yeah,
So
but they
hopefully
don't.
that's helpful.
The issue is they don't. I mean, I even gave them a little quiz on Friday and I had a student today said, well, I didn't know where it was.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
that's difficult. That's
it's like
difficult.
pulling teeth.
Well,
Anyway,
then you just
it's
say,
like-
okay, well, I'll just say, okay, then I'm going to give it to you now. Here you go.
Yeah, and that's what I did. So you just do.
Yeah,
I just
like-
wanted to, yeah.
Because I mean,
Okay.
even with my kids, I'm not always getting stuff back when I need it or whatnot. So
Yeah.
you just got to be really patient and more flexible. And,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
everybody's doing their best and we don't know what's going on in their homes. And, you know, we really got to be patient. That's the number one thing I learned about being online is you've got to be patient. I might have my day scheduled like this and it's going to look like this. Right?
No, that's my day
Not
every
gonna be
day.
linear. So I just go,
Yeah,
oh, well, c'est la vie. And
Yeah.
so anyways, I hope that's helpful.
All right, thanks.
You're
Yeah, I mean,
welcome.
we're all, as teachers, I think we tend to be perfectionists and we want it to go exactly as Pauline, we have to with mostly ourselves, feeling
Yeah.
that we need to get everything right. But it's such a challenging time. Hopefully,
Mhm.
you know, those online students will hang in there, and those who do want to hang in there can receive the benefit of all your teaching, and who want to listen and join in.
Is there any other questions right now? Because if not,
Yeah.
I want to demonstrate something if there's
Well,
no
I
other
think
questions
Michael,
right this
is
moment.
that Michael? Do you have a question? Michael.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, Wendy. Hi, Pauline.
Hi, Michael.
I'm very much new to AIM.
Mhm.
And I'm also teaching, like Barbara, you know, I'm teaching in person and virtually. So I have a class in both worlds. I'm wondering, how is teaching AIM to a grade 4 audience in core French?
Great. I'm
Oh.
a career core French teacher. Like I've done grade 1 immersion for 4 years, about 10 years ago, and then I went back to core French. But teaching using AIM with grade 4 students is perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
it can't get much better than that.
No.
They're pretty enthusiastic, and they, you know, they're still at that age where they like you still. Like they're not grade 6 and 7 where, you know, But going back to the hybrid thing too, don't be too hard on yourselves, you guys. You just do the best you can, right? So you think in your mind, okay, like I'm going to do the actions, I'm going to do the teacher-led activities. You're watching online to see if kids are like, I would have my computer right in front of me, and the class is behind me over there, so I can watch online, glance down and look up and see. And so I'm looking down, looking up, and just kind of glancing around. And you know what, if there's some students that aren't participating, hey, I get that. I used to get that in class too. So you just got to use your gentle reminders. Tout le monde parle avec moi maintenant. And I just keep telling them, you're speaking with me and you're speaking with me. So, but grade 4 is awesome. Does that answer your question? Was that kind of what you were looking for? Or?
Yeah. And what is one thing that I should do? Because I'm very much new to aim gestures. You know, I've only heard of it. But yeah, what is something that I should do?
Are you teaching online, Michael? Sorry, I think I didn't hear, something froze. Did you say you're teaching online or in person to these grade 4s?
Oh, both.
Oh, it's same hybrid type of thing.
Yeah. So I'm teaching a virtual class, and I'm also teaching classes in person.
Oh,
in Toronto.
Separately.
Separate.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. That's nice. Yeah.
So what I suggest is that you really need to have your expectations for what you expect them to do. So, and of course, as the teacher, you're going to need to learn the gestures, because gestures are like kinesthetic flashcards. You're using them to allow students to produce language, to speak. That's the beauty of gestures, is that when you're up there doing this, they know to say bonjour. And when you go, comment ça va? It's not because you have to learn how to say it. They have to learn to read that and put the words together to make a phrase. So as a new AIM teacher, that's what I would suggest. And to keep it simple. Some brand new AIM teachers want to do everything. We're teachers. We want to know everything 10 weeks ahead of time before we, have to take it into the classroom. But you got to change that thinking around a little bit and say, okay, what do I need to know for tomorrow to make tomorrow work? Because if you don't, you're going to get overwhelmed. I've talked to many new AIM teachers that want to know all the gestures. And you know what I tell them? I've been teaching with AIM since 2004, which is a long time. And there's gestures I don't even know yet, because there's certain plays I haven't done yet, like in my career. So I would be just the same as in your boat. I would have to start and learn those new gestures. Mind you, many of the gestures roll over from previous plays, but there's always new vocabulary, new gestures to learn. So my advice to you as a brand new teacher, virtually or in classroom, is to take it slow. Focus on that activity that you're going to be doing for the next day, or the 2 activities that you might be working on in the teacher's manual, and everything's laid out in the teacher's manual for you. What I used to do the night before when I was first learning, I'd put Wendy on the screen and she'd be going bonjour, and I'd be going bonjour, and she'd go tout le monde, and I'd go tout le monde. So I just did everything she was doing. And then I would get my teacher's manual and I would look kind of at the suggested scripted dialogue. And then I'd start putting it together. I'd practice with my dog in the living room. I'd practice, with a stuffed animal sitting on the couch. And I would practice what I'm going to do the next day. And that's how simple AIM is, to get yourself ready for the next day.
Thanks, Pauline.
So that's what I would suggest. Keep it simple and keep it really small. Okay.
Yeah. And Michael, have you been to a workshop recently?
Not yet.
Oh, well, that will prepare you immensely to begin using AIM. So hopefully I'll see you at our Winter Institute in February. That really, we highly recommend that the teacher not begin AIM until you attend a workshop. It's very difficult to come to the methodology without the support of a facilitator who can guide you through every single activity and actually teach you most of the gestures during that beginning workshop. So you go in confidently, having felt what it's like to be a student in a workshop, understand total and partial questions and how to ask them, understand how to do all of the different AIM activities because you've experienced them yourself in a workshop. It's very intimidating and overwhelming to think of beginning AIM without having some form of training before. But of course you can get started. There's the teacher's guide there, but you know, we want you to be really successful, and it is kind of important to have that support.
Yeah, there's nothing like experiencing it. Like, I know when I started out many moons ago, we didn't have the type of training that's available today. So kind of just did what we thought, and we had a small group of mentors that, you know, helped us out. But the training that is available today is amazing, because you actually go in there and you are just learning everything that you need to know, hands-on. It's not like reading through a book and trying to figure it out. You're in there, you're hands-on, and you're getting, you know, led through each activity so you can see what it looks like and sounds like, and you can feel it. And
yeah, the teacher's guide is there really in support of the workshop that you've attended. So you go, oh yeah, that's what we did. I remember now. So anyway. So we have a couple more questions. And hi, Kathy. Welcome. Kathy's joined us here. That's so nice. Nice to see you, Kathy.
Hi, everybody.
So I'm not sure who put up her hand first, Francesca or Christy, but let's go with Francesca since you're at the top there. Maybe that.
Francesca.
Hi. This year I'm teaching core French in person to grades 1 to 5.
Nice.
And I've started to use AIM. They're really taken to it, so I'm very pleased about that. I have 2 questions. One of them is, do you incorporate holidays such as Remembrance Day or anything like that into AIM?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, AIM is all about authentic interactions. I mean, that's what what we aim for is to make sure that students learn to develop authentic proficiency. So, you know, holidays come along. I don't spend 2 weeks on holiday vocabulary, but, you know, let's say Halloween, you know, is coming up this week. Well, that week before Halloween, we'll sing Sail Halloween by Matt. We'll you know, might maybe play a Halloween game of some kind using AIM vocabulary, other AIM vocabulary. You know, I'll ask a total question. Est-ce que ça c'est un fantôme ou ça c'est
Un chat noir.
Yeah, or chat noir.
Yeah.
Oh, color poster. So yeah, that there are all kinds of, you know, things you can do that are AIM-like. You know, vrai ou faux? Est-ce que le chat est noir ou orange? Or sorry, that's not right. That's some total question. Est-ce que le chat est orange? Ça c'est faux parce que le chat est noir. And so you can do all kinds of different AIM type activities around vocabulary relating to a theme. Now, in terms of delving into deep conversations about a theme or complex topics, we don't do that. Start in the first step, right. Kids. But as we move on, you certainly can have wonderful conversations. If you're doing really well, your kids will become so proficient that you can have. I remember Sylvia Duckworth talking to me once about how she, I think it was at 9/11, around that time, she had a full class conversation around that event with her kids only in French. With her kids who she's had for a couple of years. So that's where we want to go with AIM, but it's step by step by step. It doesn't happen, you know, you can't expect to have these conversations in your step 1 kit, but you can work with AIM and push your kids to make longer sentences and to understand, you know, how to respond effectively to questions and start those initial authentic conversations on a basic level.
I'm just going to pop in for 1 second and add to that. So I call it Aimifying My Content. That's what and I did that when I started grade 1 immersion, and I had a math unit, like let's say geometry, and I had to teach them the basic shapes. And so I thought to myself, what language do they need to know to be able to, what like AIM pared down language do they need to know to be able to speak to me about whatever it is I want to teach them, shapes. So then I would have my flashcards, and we would do the whole thing. Tout le monde dit la question et tout le monde dit la réponse aussi. I'd hold up a carré and we'd say, est-ce que ça c'est un carré? And tout le monde répond, oui, ça c'est un carré. So everything that I did in math was done in the AIM way. It was done orally first. Everything was done orally with the whole class, and then sending them back to their smaller groups to discuss it, to talk to, you know, to talk about the different shapes. And then the paperwork came out. So everything I did, whether it was science or social studies, if I wanted to introduce family vocabulary, or I wanted to introduce clothing or food or anything, it was all done in the AIM way. First done orally as a whole group with question totale, question partielle, then done in small groups if I wanted to send them back to work in small groups. And then, of course, I pull out the paperwork, and then they start, you know, doing their whatever paperwork, whatever little sheet I have for them to do. So I call that Aimifying My Content.
And yeah, that's perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly what we can do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay to pull away from the play to do some other stuff. And it's a good
Yeah.
idea, but don't forget to go back to your kit, because I've talked to some teachers that move away from the kit to do something special, and then they kind of forget to go back. So no, you got to remember to go back.
Yeah, it's particularly important at the beginning. You have a lot more flexibility for creative activities, and they actually are suggested in the steps 4, 5, and 6 kits. But in steps 1, 2, and 3, in your first 1.5 years with AIM, if you do 2 kits a year in Ontario, which I see a lot of you are from, of course, you could do 2 kits in grade 4 and 2 kits in grade 5 and 2 in grade 6. So you can get up to step 6 through the 3 years. So, you know, by grade 5 and into grade 6, you're well up into the creative activity, where kids should be becoming very proficient in the language, and there at least you see so much flexibility. But even at the beginning, as Pauline said, if you have that extra time in a bilingual or immersion classroom, and you have other subjects you want to do, of course you can spend a lot of time on those and aimify them, as you say, Pauline. That's absolutely right. So
Francesca, did you have you had a second question? Sorry, Wendy.
yeah.
I think
Yes,
Francesca had a second one.
My second question is, do you have any tips to transition from one kid to the next?
Sorry, do you have any what? Do we have any what?
Any
for
tips?
Tips.
Transitioning from one kit to the next?
Yeah. Well, usually there's a little bit of overlap, because the kids at the end of one kit are working on their story retellings or extensions as they move into the next kit. So before they begin their partner group activities in the next kit, they're usually finishing up, in my experience, their story retellings or extensions. And then so basically that's how there's a little bit of overlap, and they're bringing back their letters to show they performed the play and showed all their written activities in their portfolio to their parents. So that's basically how it is. Otherwise, I mean, in terms of just getting into the next kit, I just get into the next kit myself as a teacher. But the students, they can continue in their partner group activities for a few days as they're finishing up before they start their, choisis de bon mot in the next kit, because they don't know the play well. And so they're finishing up in their partner group activities. So that allows me to continue partner group activities without a break at all as they move into the next kit. But yeah, in terms of me starting, yay, aujourd'hui, je présente une nouvelle pièce. Je suis très, très excitée. I know that's controversial, but I like using that word anyway. So yeah, no, that's a big day when we transition to the next play. I am so excited. I'm kind of tired, especially if we've done this play for years. Very excited to show the next play, and the kids are excited. They're asking, quelle pièce est-ce qu'on fait, madame? Quelle pièce est-ce qu'on fait? And some of them are aware of the other plays, and, est-ce qu'on fait Shangara? Est-ce qu'on fait Comment y aller? Whatever it might be. And so it's a really fun time. That's what I can say. It's very exciting. You can lead up to it, as you're ending the last one. Oh, je présente une nouvelle pièce à la classe, coming up la semaine prochaine. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Christy has a question. I'm getting very dark.
It's not really a question. It was just to kind of help Michael out, being he
please.
was a beginner AIM person.
Thank you.
Like, the teacher's guides are just phenomenally laid out, so you can't go wrong. But you know what? Like, I've been teaching AIM since 2005, grades 7 to 12. But what has really helped me is purchasing the AIM gesture database, because you can just type in the word and the action you can just see it for yourself. And even today, like as Pauline said, like I've been teaching this for a while too, but I still have to look up certain words, and that's fine to do in class too. You know, je dois chercher la réponse, donne-moi une minute, you know? So it's, the gesture database is just, I would really encourage you to buy that as well. That's all.
Okay.
Oh,
thanks,
thanks
Christy.
Yes.
Can I just jump in for 1 second? Just be careful. I'm just going to put out a little be careful here, because the gesture database was designed for if you forget a gesture and you want to look it up quickly. It's not designed for you to take and try and implement AIM with. It's not for you to learn the gestures to implement the program, because the gestures are laid out in a certain sequence for each kit. So if you're going to the gesture database thinking you're going to use that to be able to implement a kit, it doesn't work that way. But it's a perfect tool for if you have forgotten 1 or 2 gestures. Like there's a few gestures I get mixed up all the time. So I got to go to the database to help me remember the difference between the two, because some gestures are very close. So I just wanted to throw that cautionary word in there.
That's an excellent point, Pauline. And yes, Christy, the gesture database is a very useful tool for sure. And, you know, but yeah, it's true that if a teacher isn't familiar with and doesn't know the structure of it, the words are laid out in a way that I would recommend that you teach them in that order. Of course, you can mix up slightly, but in that general order, because they're taught kind of in order of frequency relating to frequency in general, and frequency related to ease of acquisition, cognates, and other broad scope of applicability type selection, but also the context of your story. So yes, it is so much easier for you too if you just follow what's there, you not get overwhelmed. But great tool for looking up a word you can't remember for sure.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Wendy, because I just want to say, when I first saw the AIM pared down language lists, I was so confused because with the old programs, I was used to, you know, here's all your adjectives, your verbs, you know, like everything. And AIM was not like that. And I'm like, the very first thing I had to figure out and learn was, how are these related? Like, why are they laid out this way? And I know that like since then I've learned that Wendy you've had a very specific reason for creating those pared down lists the way you did. And it's been grounded in research too, right, Wendy? So yeah, so there's a lot of thought that went in. It's not just random words that make up this pared down language and the way that Wendy has got them listed. There's a lot of thought and a lot of expertise that's gone behind that. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you, Pauline.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, it is after 5 and I'm in the dark. I was in the bright sunlight when I arrived and had no idea it would get this dark. So I did not bring a light. That's idiotic. But
oh my.
Here, and I don't have a light. Oh, well. Well, I don't know if there are any other questions. It is after 5 here, after 8 your time. My goodness, you're in more dark than I am in Ontario. We could have another time together again. I'm sure, I know we will, because we're thinking of having these every couple of months or so.
Yeah.
Togethers and just chatting. And I know we kind of got off topic, off the, the online teaching, but we're here for you to answer your questions. So I'm so glad that those of you who came asked your questions, and hopefully you got enough out of this in terms of online teaching to be helpful. Of course, we're always here if you have questions. Parlez avec Pauline.
Yeah.
You know, we can answer your questions, or you can call the AIM office, of course, as well.
Yeah. I just wanted to also put my face to my email and say hi to everybody.
That's right, Kathy. Thank you.
Before you go, and I can also help with training, any resources you might need. I'm definitely here to help. So just wanted to introduce my face to people who haven't met me.
Yes, great.
That's
Thank
great
you
because
so
I'm
much.
always defaulting everybody back to the office. If I can't answer, I'll say, call Kathy, call the office. Always.
Yeah,
Kathy will help.
Give them your phone
And
number.
I
great.
have called Kathy many times.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
Thank you.
right.
Thanks, Kathy, for all your help, all the calls that I've got, and I've getting me all
Yeah.
sorted out with both the online and in class and AIM
Oh.
portal and everything.
Oh,
So I really
you're
appreciate
very
it.
welcome.
That's great.
That's great.
Good.
Okay, well, I guess,
I
I
guess we'll
guess-
officially say good night to everyone.
yeah,
Bonne nuit.
Yeah.
good night.
Thanks for coming.
Thank
Bonne
you
nuit,
so much for
merci.
coming, and thanks very much to Pauline and to
Yeah,
Kathy
thank
for
you,
coming. I
Pauline.
appreciate your support, and à la prochaine, tout le monde. Merci.
Hey, au revoir.
Au
Okay,
revoir.
goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.